I just finished it like 3 or 4 days ago, but it's called Bright Lights, Big City by an author named J. McInerney. I don't know. It's McInerney. And I hadn't actually even heard of it until I read about it, and then I went to Barnes and Noble. It was there, so I bought it, and then literally read the first page, and then read the whole thing in probably 2 days, which is unusual for me. Usually I'm pretty slow with my reading. I'll put stuff down, pick it back up. Novels sometimes take me even a month of stepping away and coming back to it just to get the book fully understood and realized. But this one, it really was easy to read. Like, I'd pick it up, I'd zip through a chapter. I feel like I had a vivid visualization of what the author was talking about. And this book was interesting for two reasons, because first, as I've said, it was present tense writing for the most part, except for a couple flashbacks. But secondly, it was written in the second person. So it was written in, the main character was referred to as you. So for many people, that would be two strikes on the style department of this book. But like I said, I read it in like 2 days, and I feel like I pretty much had visualizations of all the chapters, a clear understanding of the story, but it wasn't necessarily what I would categorize as like an easy read, if that makes sense. And so I guess what I wanted to talk about to myself standing here, is think about kind of why I had that experience and why other people's experiences would be different. Because also, I didn't want to say this, but it's worth mentioning. A lot of the times when I do write, I actually do write in present tense myself. So it might just be something that my mind has already been so practiced in doing and reading present tense that I was already prepared to read these scenes and read these chapters. Whereas other people who maybe don't have the same kind of way of thinking or even the way of reading and writing, it might be another step for them to kind of flip, like from past tense to present tense. Like, let's say you read 100 past tense books and then you all of a sudden read a present tense book. Does that take another like mental exercise that might alienate you from enjoying the story? And vice versa, if you're used to present tense, does past tense make it more difficult for you? When people tell stories about their day or stuff, that's past tense too. Like if you're catching up with friends and, well, I'm speaking in present tense now, but if you're catching up with friends and you want to tell them a story of something that happened to you over the work week, of course, the way you tell it, typically because it's in the past, you tell a story in past tense. I don't know. I think that's pretty normal. I guess some people might start with present tense where it's like, so I'm at work, right? But for the most part, I would say I was at work and this happened in past tense. So it's almost like storytelling just on like a nonfiction level or on like a natural level is something that already happened. So maybe that's another reason why we as humans are just kind of prone to the past tense storytelling as opposed to present tense. Whereas present tense would be utilized for like instruction or for what I'm doing now, which is like hypothesizing, describing something that's not necessarily a story that's being told for entertainment. I hope this is making sense. I'm kind of getting off the rails. So all right, so Bright Lights, Big City, it's basically a story about a young kind of professional 24-year-old who is referred to as you, who is working as kind of a fact checker in this publication. He's living in New York City in the 80s. And he kind of is trapped because firstly, he was recently divorced, like his wife left him. And now he's working at this fact-checking job that he really doesn't like and stresses him out. But then also certain addictions in his life are beginning to ruin his social life, his work life, and kind of taking hold of his day-to-day life in a way that is getting in the way of his health and his happiness. Personally, I've read a lot of books, poems, movies that kind of deal with drug addiction, and I didn't think that that part of the story was particularly interesting. It is a pretty large part of it. Even in the opening chapter, he's like out at in the nightclubs way later than he wants to be, and kind of it shows just how his addiction is kind of at the forefront of his life. Despite my kind of lack of enthusiasm, it does seem like a pretty crucial part to this history that the book is trying to capture, which it wasn't history when it was written, but it seems crucial, like kind of the nightclub life and the lifestyle. And it has great descriptions of New York City and kind of the people there and kind of the random things that maybe wouldn't necessarily matter in a more focused type of book and storytelling. There's a lot of great moments that are like you can feel that it's sort of just telling a story within the city. And the theme of feeling lost and feeling hopeless and without direction is pretty much the biggest theme in this book. And I think that maybe using like drugs as a tool to create that lost feeling. It is an honest one, but I don't really think that that's what makes this book endearing, or I don't think that it makes it good writing that way. Although the one thing I'll say, because of the second person, there is kind of a dissociation that happens when you use second person, when you say the main character is you. There's sort of a disassociation for me when I read it, which can kind of be tied to a lot of the themes of the book. And you could just say, oh, yeah, it's drugs. But it's also like his wife left him. And so then he's kind of like trapped in this place. And it's almost like he's looking inward at this person that he doesn't really understand and has to reevaluate. But unfortunately, there's so many parts of his life that are being disrupted by his own kind of misbehavior, his own addictions, that cause him to like fail to connect with this person that is actually himself. We learn more and more about his own tragedies as the book goes on. It's not just as simple as the things I listed, but I'm not going to spoil them. But yeah, another part that I thought was one of the more enjoyable, entertaining parts that kind of is still under the lines of feeling lost and feeling disconnected is his job itself. He expresses multiple times that his real dream is to be a fiction writer and to work somehow in fiction. But instead, he's kind of stuck in this position that is actually obsessed with fact. So it's an irony. He's a fact checker. And basically all he does throughout the work week is read other people's work and check their facts and make sure that everything is true. But then also the irony of it is that a lot of the magazine's reputation, the publication's reputation, is almost dependent on him doing this thing that he feels no enthusiasm towards. I would say that's kind of actually the biggest plot development in the book, between his wife just like leaves him. I think she goes to Paris and then doesn't come back, but she's kind of looming in the early chapters, and then that part develops. But then his time at his place of business, working as a fact checker, is probably the number one developing plot. And yeah, just to say it again, it's so interesting having a character who wants to write fiction being stuck. The only job he can get even relatively close to the writing world is to be someone whose job only focuses in fact and checking facts, not even writing facts, but just checking them. It's kind of a beautiful irony. So yeah, that was probably the main developing plot for me. It's a pretty short book. It's only 180 pages, but plenty happens in it. And although I described it as kind of like a drifting lost narrative, it is very focused in what each chapter does story-wise. So it's definitely not like you're reading pages wondering why he's talking about what he's talking about. It's still very focused.